my little review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Firstly, it gets straight into the action, which is something I guess I don't do on this podcast, but if you're going to see that film, like, it just, wow, you're into it. And I didn't expect that, because usually there's a bit of setup, but no, straight in, big action scene, Adam Warlock, destruction, Guardians, all sorts of chaos is going on. But then if you've seen the film, you already know that. If you haven't seen the film, hopefully you've understood that there's spoilers in this podcast episode by now. But yeah, it gets straight into it. It really grips you with the storytelling and action pieces, which is a really good thing, especially for a casual audience goer, I suppose, that you don't want to sit there waiting half an hour for something to happen. Like, this gets straight into it, and that's a really good thing. I mean, some people might think it was a little too random, and I almost thought that. I was like, wait, what's going on? But I suppose it worked to its advantage, because it did pay off, and the whole film really does rely on the action that happened within those first 5 minutes. And I didn't expect that. I thought, okay, yeah, they're going to resolve this little conflict, but no, it really pushes the whole film forward, which I suppose is the purpose. And the film uses its runtime pretty well. Again, we start with the payoff from the second movie with the introduction of Adam Warlock, although his introduction and his purpose felt kind of forced. It's like they had this payoff, they had this tease and they needed to pay it off, and their plans changed, so it's slightly different. But they kind of changed what their purpose, and they revealed that the Sovereign were created by the High Evolutionary, who is the villain of this film, and that Aisha and Adam Warlock, who are the Sovereign, she's the High Priestess, and he's technically her son. So they're now working for the High Evolutionary to capture Rocket for, purposes. I feel like I've forgotten that key plot point already, and I only saw it last night. I mean, I haven't seen the second film in a while, but I don't remember there being any tease or references to them working for somebody else. They seemed pretty self-reliant to me. So when they introduced them in, it felt a bit forced. And they were the only two Sovereign in it. There was no, army from the second film or anything like that. It was just them two kind of working solo for the High Evolutionary. So that was interesting. But Will Poulter gives Adam Warlock a naive and humorous kind of personality. And it is said that the High Evolutionary woke him up from his cocoon too early, which is kind of cool. So he's kind of young, and he doesn't really know anything, and he's kind of learning as he goes, but he's also got that very quick, violent temper to him. He knows he's got this strength and power, but he doesn't like to use it, or he doesn't realise how far he goes. There was this scene where they capture a Ravager, and they try and extract information for him, and then Aisha's like, oh yeah, show him what we can do. And then Adam Warlock completely disintegrates the guy. And then he's like, well, if we can't get anything from him now, he's dead. And he's like, oh, I didn't realise, sorry. But yeah, as I said, the whole movie really does kind of rely and happen because of the first action pieces and that first few scenes. I mean, it doesn't really rely on other MCU movies. There are references to Infinity War with Gamora and Thanos and things, but that's pretty much it. You don't need to have seen Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania to understand what's going on in here, which is good. You don't need to see Doctor Strange. You just need to see the Guardians films. That's pretty much it, which I suppose is, the purpose and the whole point, because it's the end of the trilogy and everything, and they're all focusing on this, but it really worked. It was nice that it wasn't really connected to the wider MCU in a way. There were no teasers of Kang that I picked up on, so that was good as well. Not only does it not rely on other MCU movies, it doesn't really set up other things either. So like I said, there's no mention of Kang, no other threats, nothing multiverse related. It was all kind of in its own little bubble. But of course it does leave doors open for certain characters, and by the ending, they all kind of disband almost and go their separate ways. But again, if you've seen the film, you know that, right? See, that's weird. I feel like I'm talking to you, telling you what happened, but then I'm assuming you already know what happened. And if you don't know, then hopefully you want to know. That's the difficult thing about doing a spoiler film review, isn't it, really? I had the same trouble with the Mario movie. I talked about that one here. One thing that I was expecting going into this film was a character to die, because all the cast talked about how this is their last MCU film, it's their last Guardians role, James Garner, yeah, it's done, characters are going to die. Well, they didn't say that, but they made us feel that way, and I think the marketing did that as well. No, none of the characters died, you'd be pleased to know, or maybe you'd be disappointed, but there were definitely moments where you're thinking, oh my god, this is it. They're going to die now. Is this it? And you think that with Rock... Well, I think all of the characters have their moments of where that's going to happen. Like, for example, Rocket, obviously, where he's dying throughout the film anyway, and then when he goes to this otherworldly realm where he meets his deceased friends, and then he He's like, oh god, is he gonna go? You know, he's walking into the light. Or when Nebula is trying to save the ship, she like, you know, puts herself into it to control it. I thought, oh yeah, she's not getting out of here. The ship is exploding around her. She's gonna die. Or when Mantis and Drax are on the outside of the ship going into space and they're freezing up. Oh god, Mantis is going to die now. Drax, I think he got shot like twice at least in that film. It's like, oh my god, is this it? He's dead now. And then Peter at the end, like, oh my god, he got trapped by the debris. He started to freeze up. He's dead. But no, Adam Warlock saved him in the end. And then they all survived. I think the one that really got me thinking, oh my god, they are going to die now, was Peter. Like you do kind of think it with the others, but his scene, like, it was so last second that if it was any other movie or any other time, the character would have and should have died. Like, he was in space, he didn't have his helmet to help him or his rocket boots, he was just there and he started to freeze up. It happened to Yondu, why didn't it happen to Peter, you know? And then his face started to swell up as well, but he survived that. And I really thought, oh my god, this is it. And the music and everything and the scene and all the characters are like trapped, they can't help him. And but then it's that heroic save the day. Adam Warlock is a good guy now. He saved our main hero. And that's good because, well, as I said, they all went their separate ways and Peter returned to Earth to be with his granddad. Yeah, he's back on Earth. Will he join the Avengers? I hope so. I don't expect to see him again before Avengers Kang Dynasty, or any of these characters really. And then Drax and Nebula kind of raise all these children and animals that they saved from the High Evolutionary. They raise them on Nowhere. Mantis says she wants to go her own way, although she's still on Nowhere. She's just not in the same city portion that Drax and Nebula are in. Obviously, they all retire from the Guardians. Gamora doesn't join them. She sticks with the Ravagers, and that's fine. She seems to be enjoying that. She's a different person than she was, or than she would have been if she hadn't have died, and the time travel. And it's referenced that how everyone else from the 2014 timeline back in Endgame was like killed, but she was the only one who wasn't. They didn't explain why. They even made a joke about it, like, oh, I don't understand Infinity War science. I don't understand Infinity Stones. You know, I'm not an expert on that. So it's a fun thing. They don't need to explain it. They just made that throwaway line. And then Peter makes Rocket the captain of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, he's been through a lot. I think even in Infinity War and Endgame, he wasn't snapped. He was still there. And now he's the leader. Obviously, Groot is still sticking with him. Kraglin as well, who also kind of joined in the second film. And then they got Cosmo, the dog. And then, of course, Adam Warlock joined as well. And one of the kids who they saved from the High Evolutionary, apparently she's got powers that she didn't use earlier in the film, I don't think. But now she's part of the team, so I guess she's going to be a leading role. Marvel haven't talked about any future Guardians films, but I'd expect them to do so. But we're not going to see these characters again before, like, the next Avengers film or before the next Guardians film, I don't think. But it's nice to know that the team might be different, but they're still out there. But then, once you got to the end of the film and after the post-credit scenes, it usually has a little tagline like, the Guardians of the Galaxy will return. But it didn't have that for this one. All it said was, in a slightly different style of title card almost, it said, the legendary Star-Lord will return. So, is that going to be the title of a Disney Plus spin-off special or show or a film? The legendary Star-Lord? It's because it felt like a title card. It wasn't the basic black screen, white font. It was a big thing, really in your face, really obvious, and it's good. I'm just happy he's on Earth and like, yes, please join the Avengers, because why not? The Avengers need new members, so he should join them. But he's very much having that quiet life now, until of course there's another end of the world threat where he has no choice but to get involved, or his granddad will die or something, and that'll fuel him to get back in the team. But so I expect that. But it was surprising to see that despite setting up a new team of Guardians, they're not teased. I guess they don't need to be, but it was just a little surprise. And although pretty much all the characters have got a happy ending in this film, when we see them again, I feel like certain stories for characters have wrapped up now, like Nebula and Drax, for example. They both got a happy ending in this film, but I don't really see them going further, other than being roped back in for the action again. I feel like if they're going to come back, they need to be brought back to be killed off. Mainly those two, just because they would have done the happy ending, they would have raised all these children, they've created a legacy that their purpose is done now. And they should go out with some sacrifice or something. I think that would be what I would do. But I could go on and on about this film, and it wasn't what I expected, but I still enjoyed it. James Gunn, obviously written and directed by him, absolutely knocked out of the park. It was just good. Like, a lot of MCU films haven't been good since Endgame because they set the bar so high, and in the marketing they were saying the best Marvel film since Endgame, and I disagree with that. I don't think it was. I think Spider-Man No Way Home is still the better film since Endgame. But it was up there, you know? Better than all the other Phase 4 films, better than Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, probably better than Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I feel like I need to rewatch it. Jake said he rewatched it and enjoyed it more on a second viewing, so I do need to do that. But I think Shang-Chi was also a very strong film, but definitely better than Black Widow, definitely better than Black Panther Wakanda Forever, definitely better than Thor Love and Thunder, definitely better than the Eternals. I haven't even seen it, but I just know it is. So it is very good. And of course, a big part of making a film good is the cast and how they play their roles. And, you know, you got to give shout outs to all of them because they really did a good job in this film. Especially somebody who I didn't know was going to be in this film, Linda Cardinelli, who you may know as Laura Barton in the Avengers films and the Hawkeye series, obviously Hawkeye's wife, but she also worked with James Gunn back on the Scooby-Doo live-action films way back, like 20 years ago, playing Velma, and she was the voice of Lila, the otter. I think she's an otter. I never thought a film would make me want to cry about a raccoon and an otter. Like, their story, like, the other characters are funny as well, little comic relief in there, but those two, the connection they had, yeah, I didn't cry, but I was very close to doing so on a few occasions, and that was definitely one of them. And when they had their almost little reunion, she did an amazing job. That was really good. But of course, it wouldn't be a James Gunn film if it wasn't filled with cameos. We got Nathan Fillion back as this kind of alien army commander dude. I mean, he's in a big kind of puffy suit, but his head is, you know, he looks like Nathan Fillion. He's normal. You recognize him straight away. Michael Rooker was back as Yondu for like 3 seconds for a little hallucination sequence for Kraglin, who inspires him to finally master his kind of arrow dart thingy, which he's been trying to do, but he finally managed to do that. Totally didn't expect it, but now looking back, I feel like I should have, because obviously he had a role in the holiday special. Of course, he was going to have a role in this. You know, he's good friends with James Gunn. It just made sense to bring him back. I think that was a really good use of him. And then Judy Greer, who also played, I think was it Maggie Lang? Scott Lang's ex-wife in the first 2 Ant-Man films. She did a voice role for one of these alien cyborg war pig things that look very creepy. But she had a small role in there, which I didn't know until after the film. I was like, oh yeah, okay. I saw the name in the credits. I was like, right. That makes sense, I guess. And then we had Sylvester Stallone reprising his role as the Ravager leader from the second film. Much small. Well, he was a small role in that film, but also a smaller role in this film, more like a cameo, really. So that was pretty cool to see him. And then there was other kind of members of his little Ravagers team that was fun to see. Although Michelle Yeoh's character was not in this film, I don't think. If she was, I didn't see her. But I guess she's too busy winning Oscars to appear in a Guardians of the Galaxy film right now. Tara Strong replaces Miley Cyrus as the voice of Mainframe, the kind of floating little head robot thingy. As I said, was voiced by Miley Cyrus in a cameo role at the end of the second film, but now replaced by Tara Strong, who also voices Miss Minutes in the Loki series. So loads of actors coming in doing multiple roles, but I guess if you're doing voice work, it doesn't really matter if you've already played somebody else. And then another actor who really surprised me, and I had absolutely no idea they were in this film until I saw their name in the opening credits, Nico Santos, who I know him for his role as Mateo in the Superstore TV series, which is one of my all-time favourites. I love it. But he played kind of the right-hand man of the High Evolutionary, and he did an amazing job. It was funny, it was menacing. You know, you almost want to feel sorry for him, but at the point where he's going to die, and his death is painful. Oh! But then, you know, he was a bad guy ultimately, but I just feel proud, and I hope that he gets more big roles because he deserves them, and his performance in this was amazing. So that was a really fun surprise that I didn't expect, and I just really enjoyed it. But yeah, I could talk hours and hours about this film, and I've talked longer about it than I have expected to already. So yeah, I think I'll wrap it up there. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, definitely go and see it. It's well worth it. But if you're in the UK, go to an Odeon cinema to get this really cool Guardians of the Galaxy exclusive limited edition popcorn bucket. I think it's like £12 or whatever. I went to a View cinema and I didn't managed to get one because it's exclusive to Odeon, and my friend went to an Odeon cinema yesterday as well, and she got one. I was like, oh man, I really want that. Like, there is an Odeon cinema near me, but I've always been going to View. That's kind of my go-to. And I looked on eBay, and these popcorn buckets are like 30 quid now. I was like, oh my god, I'm not paying that, but I do want one. It's like, I mean, I could go and see the film again, I guess. Get a popcorn bucket. Just for a popcorn bucket. No, I was one on eBay for like £15 in an auction bidding. So okay, I'll pay a little bit over the odds. I'll do that because this is really cool and I want it. But no, that is flying up in value right now. Everyone wants that for some reason. That's crazy. If you have one and you don't want it, send it my way. I'd really appreciate that. Thanks for watching this clip from an episode of the Daily Weekly Podcast. Don't forget to watch the full episode, and after that, tune into our other YouTube channels as well, because we've got plenty more content for you to enjoy.